Jai Gurudev. I hope you have all reread the last 3 pages. Yeah, I gave you homework last week. Yes. So now we will continue. Yeah, we will start with page 130. Yeah, I hope you all reread page 127 through 129. Yeah, they are really beautiful pages, aren't they? Yeah. Okay. So we will begin with page 130. Aditya will read for us.
Vasistha continued, O Rama, they who are busy with their diverse affairs in this world in pursuit of pleasure and power do not desire to know the truth which they obviously do not see. He who is wise but who has not completely controlled the pleasure-seeking tendencies of his senses sees the truth and sees the illusion. And he who has clearly understood the nature of the world and of the jiva and who has firmly rejected the world appearance as a reality is liberated and is not born again. The ignorant strive for the welfare of the body and not of the self. Be not like the ignorant, O Rama, but be wise.
So beautiful, na? It's like a summary of the last 3 pages that we read. O Rama, they who are busy with the diverse affairs in this world in pursuit of pleasure and power do not desire to know the truth which they obviously do not see. Yeah? You ask me sometimes, no, that why this person is not in knowledge. Yeah? Because the feverishness of this Prakriti is gripping that person so much. He's clouded. Yeah? So even if somebody brings knowledge to such a person, they cannot see it. They are so lost in Moha Maya, yeah, that they are really, as Vasistha called them, ignorant fools. Yeah? So he advises you to be like the wise and not like the fool. And we look at the advice. He says what? He who is wise but who has not completely controlled the pleasure-seeking tendencies of his senses sees the truth and sees the illusion. Means he sees this spiritual knowledge also and he understands Maya also. Yeah? He sees both. This person is still not enlightened. This person, he said, has not completely controlled the pleasure-seeking tendencies of his senses. So he's somewhere in between. He's not an ignorant and he's not enlightened. He's somewhere in between. Yes? And this person somewhere in between, I'm sure we all identify with, right? Yeah? He can see both the Maya and the consciousness, the Purusha. Yeah? He can understand the essence of the soul. And he who has clearly understood the nature of the world and of the jiva and who has firmly rejected the world appearance as the reality is liberated and is not born again. So to get out of the cycle of birth and death and birth and death, birth and death, what is the primary requirement? To have the courage to firmly reject this world appearance. Oh, this is all Maya, all Maya. Yes, it is all a dream. Yes, do you hold on to your dream in the morning? Yeah, it drops off, right? You can't even say, oh, I renounce my dream. Yeah? The dream renounces you. Yes, like that only a wise one firmly rejects this world appearance. That is the first requirement. Yeah, he firmly rejects the world appearance as reality because he has clearly understood the nature of this world and the nature of jiva, this body. Yeah, the mind. Yes. And the last sentence is really beautiful. The ignorant strive for the welfare of the body. Yes. So if you are still bothered about this body and keeping this body healthy and take care of this body, oh, what are you going to do? Keep it as a monument? Remember Gurudev said this? Yeah? Not that you should completely ignore it also, but don't give so much over importance to this body. Yes? Recognize that you are that Purusha, that consciousness which is beyond this body. Yeah? This is just Prakriti. This is just my car. Yeah? The car could be an Santro, a Fiat, an Ambassador, or the car could be Mercedes. It doesn't matter. It is still a car. Yes? So, don't get this illusion thinking that you are the body. It is just a vehicle. Yes? Once this vehicle exhausts its karma, it is going to drop. Yeah? So he advises you, the ignorant strive for the welfare of the body and not of the self. Be not like the ignorant, O Rama, but be wise. Beautiful, na? So now he takes us into a story. Yeah? We will read this story now.
To illustrate this, I shall now narrate to you an interesting legend. In the country known as Magad, which had an abundance of pleasure gardens, there lived a sage by name Dashura. He was engaged in breathtaking penance. He was a great ascetic who had no interest at all in worldly pleasures, and he was learned too. He was the son of another sage known as Sharolama. But as ill luck would have it, he lost both his parents when he was young. The deities of the forest took pity on this orphan who was inconsolable in his grief, and they said to him, "O wise boy, you are the son of a sage. Why do you weep like an ignorant fool? Do you not know the evanescent nature of this world appearance? Young one, such is the very nature of this world appearance. Things come into being, exist for a while, and then they are destroyed. Whatever being there appears to be, from the relative point of view, even if that being is called Brahma, the Creator, is subject to this inevitable end. There is no doubt about this. Hence, do not grieve over the inevitable death of your parents." The young man's sorrow was ameliorated. He got up and performed the funeral rites of his parents. Then he began to lead a rigorously religious life, hemmed in on all sides with the do's and don'ts. Since he had not yet realized the truth, he was immersed in the performances of the rituals with all their injunctions and prohibitions. All this created in him a feeling that the whole world is full of impurities. He sought to live in an unpolluted place, a treetop, he decided. Wishing to live on a treetop, he performed a sacred rite during which he cut off and offered his own flesh into the sacred fire. Soon the fire deity appeared before him and announced, "You will surely attain the wish which has already appeared in your heart." After accepting the ascetic's worship, fire disappeared again. Vasistha continued. The sage then saw in front of him a huge Kadamba tree which had a majestic appearance. It seemed to wipe with its hands, its foliage, the tears, raindrops of his beloved sky. It had actually covered the space between heaven and earth with the thousands of its arms, branches, and it looked like the cosmic form of the Lord, with the sun and the moon for its eyes. Laden with flowers, it rained them on the holy and divine sages who traversed the sky, and the bees that dwelt on it sang a song of welcome to those sages. The sage ascended this tree, which stood like a pillar linking heaven and earth. He sat on the topmost branch of this tree. For a brief moment, he let his eyes roam in all the directions. He had a vision of the cosmic being. Because he had taken his abode on the Kadamba tree, he had come to be known as Kadamba Dashura. He commenced his austerities sitting on the top of that tree. He had been accustomed to the ritualistic performances enjoined in the Veda and so he engaged himself in their performance, but this time mentally. Yet, such is the power of such mental performance that it purified the sage's mind and heart, and he attained pure wisdom. One day he beheld in front of him a nymph clad in flowers. She was extremely beautiful. The sage asked her, "O beautiful lady, with your radiance you can overpower even Cupid. Who are you?" She replied, "Lord, I am a deity of the forest. In this world nothing is unattainable to one who resorts to the presence of an enlightened sage like you. I have just been to attend a festival to the presence of an enlightened sage like you. I have just where
No, just read that. I have just been
to attend a festival in the forest where I met several other goddesses to the forest, each of them with her offspring. I was the only one among them who had no children. Hence I am unhappy. However, when you are in this forest, why should I be unhappy? Grant me a son, or I shall reduce myself to ashes." The sage picked up a creeper and handing it to her said, "Go. Just as this creeper will produce flowers in a month, you too will give birth to a son." The grateful goddess went away. She returned to the sage after 12 years with a son of that age. She said, "Lord, this is your son, and I have instructed him in all branches of learning. I pray that you instruct him in self-knowledge, for who will let one son grow into a fool?" The sage accepted to do so, and the goddess went away. From that day, the sage began to instruct the young man in all branches of self-knowledge.
Okay. So you got the story until now, right? Yeah. So this is the story of Dashura and how Dashura became Kadamba Dashura. Yeah. When his parents passed away, he was really unhappy, and that grief had overtaken him. Yes. And how that grief was ameliorated just by this knowledge, this understanding that I am not the body and this world appearance is evanescent. What is the meaning of evanescent?
Temporary, fleeting.
Temporary. Yeah. That which exists only for a little while. Why are you worried about something that is anyway going to die? It has an expiry date on it. Wake up. Yes. This was a wake-up call for him. He realized, oh, I am not the body. And similarly, my parents were not that body. Yes. This gives us all a lesson that gradually, slowly, but sometime in future, this must be the situation that we might land up in. Yeah. We all have parents who have reached that age. And we might be in a situation where we might be grieving over something like this. Yes. So here is a lesson for us. Yeah? I am not the body. Yeah? Remember this and remind yourself. Even your parents, yeah? Their karma was to bring you into this world. That is why they are your parents. Yeah? And it's done. Once the karma exhausts, the consciousness leaves. Just like when you have a candle and the candle keeps burning. Have you noticed? The candle size keeps reducing, and one day when the wax exhausts, the flame is gone. And that is bound to happen. Everything in this world, in this Maya, is evanescent. Yes, it's temporary. And sooner or later, it will happen to everybody in our lives. Yes, so wise one does not sit and lament. A wise one recognizes that it is all temporary. Yeah? He smiles and he moves on. Yeah. So we can apply this knowledge. Yeah? That's a very beautiful lesson that Dashura learned. Yeah? And then something opened up in him. He recognized, that there is something beyond this Prakriti. Yeah? And he decided to live right up on a tree. Yeah, so he chose the Kadamba tree. And that is how he came to be known as Kadamba Dashura. Yes. And then we have another little story of a nymph who came his way and requested for a blessing of a son. Yeah, and he blessed her with a son. And the son was brought back by the nymph after a few years, after he was about 11 years old. And now the story continues where Dashura is instructing his son. Yeah, so let's go ahead and see what does Dashura have to say.
Vasistha continued. During this period, I was myself going over that very tree and heard the sage's instruction to his son. Dashura said, I shall illustrate with a story that I wish to say concerning this world. There lives a mighty king named Khota, who is capable of conquering the three worlds. The deities presiding over the worlds faithfully honor his commands. No one can even catalogue his innumerable deeds, which were productive of both happiness and unhappiness. His valor could not be challenged by anyone using any weapon whatsoever, or even by fire, any more than one can hit space with a fist. Even Indra, Vishnu and Shiva could not equal him in his enterprises. The king had three bodies, which had completely engulfed the worlds, and they were respectively the best, the middling and the least. The king arose in space and got established in space. There the king built a city with 14 roads and 3 sectors. In it were pleasure gardens, beautiful mountain peaks for sports, and 7 lakes with pearls and creepers in them. In it there were 2 lights which were hot and cold and whose light never diminished. In that city the king created several types of beings. Some were placed above, others in the middle, and yet others below. Of them some were long-lived and others short-lived. They were covered with black hair. They had 9 gates. They were well ventilated. They had 5 lamps, 3 pillars, and white supporting wooden poles. They were soft with clay plastering. All this was created by the Maya or illusory power of the king. Here the king besports himself with all the ghosts and goblins which are afraid of inquiry or investigation, that had been created to protect the mansions, the different bodies. When he thinks of moving, he thinks of a future city and contemplates migrating into it. Surrounded by the ghosts, he runs fast to the new abode after leaving the previous one and occupies the new city built in the fashion of a magic creation. In that again, when he contemplates destruction, he destroys himself. Sometimes he wails, "What shall I do? I am ignorant. I am miserable." Sometimes he is happy, at others pitiable. Thus he lives and conquers, goes, talks, flourishes, shines and does not shine. My son, thus this king is tossed in this ocean of world appearance.
Beautiful. This is explained again, just like it was previously given in one of the stories where the person would run into the jungle and start hitting himself and thinking that, oh, who beat me, and then he's all afraid of somebody who is beating him, and because he's all afraid, again he starts running, and then again he starts beating himself, and again it continues. Yeah, he's only beating himself and he's only wondering who is beating. And we are doing the same thing. We've all created our own karma, and this karma one day comes as karma phalam into our lives, and then we sit and crib, oh, who is doing this to ourselves? Yeah? We are doing it to ourselves, not anybody else. Yes? This story of King Khota is similar. Yeah? Through his mind, he has conjured up this entire Maya, this world appearance. Yes? He has conjured everything, the mansion and the cities and the beautiful lakes, mountains, peaks, everything is all here in his mind. Yeah? And then he only destroys this entire city. And again he creates another one. And then he goes and lives in that city. And then he destroys that. And this keeps continuing. Yeah? So we are doing the same thing. Recognize this. We are lost in this world appearance. This Maya. Again another reminder. Watch the movie Inception to understand this. Yeah, it's nothing but a dream inside a dream inside another dream. Yeah. One day you'll probably wake up and see, oh, all this was a dream. Yeah, the Yoga Vasistha class, the Ashtavakra class, Ekta, Art of Living, Guruji. Yeah, that life with that beautiful girl or with that handsome guy. Yeah. Everything, the children, the grandchildren, all of it was just a dream. And it does not exist anymore. We'll read ahead, page 133.
The Ashura continued. Thus has been illustrated the creation of the universe and of man. Khota, who arose in the great void, is none but a notion or an intention. This notion arises in the great void of its own accord and dissolves in the great void of its own accord. Accord 2. The entire universe and whatever there is in it, it is the creation of this notion or intention and not else. In fact, even the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, are the limbs of that notion. That intention alone is responsible for the creation of the 3 worlds, the 14 regions and the 7 oceans. The city built by the king is nothing but the living entity with his different organs and their characteristics. Of the different kinds of beings thus created, some, the gods, are in a higher region and others are in lower realms. Having built this imaginary city, the king placed it under the protecting care of ghosts. These ghosts are the ahamkara, ego principle. The king thenceforth sports in this world, in this body. In a moment, he sees the world in the waking state, and after some time, he abruptly shifts his attention to the world within, which he enjoys in his dreams. He moves from one city to another, from one body to another, from one realm to another. After many such peregrinations, he develops wisdom, getting disillusioned with these worlds and their pleasures, and reaches the end of his wandering by the cessation of all notions. In one moment, he seems to enjoy wisdom, whilst the very next moment he is caught up in pleasure seeking. And in an instant, his understanding gets perverted, just as is in the case of a little child. These notions are either like dense darkness and give rise to ignorance and births in the lower orders of creation, or pure and transparent and gives rise to wisdom, drawing one close to the truth, or impure and give rise to worldliness. When all such notions cease, then there is liberation. Even if one engages oneself in every other sort of spiritual endeavor, even if one has the gods themselves as one's teachers, and even if one were in heaven or any other region, liberation is not had except through cessation of all notions. The real, the unreal, and the admixture of these two are all but notions and not else. And notions themselves are neither real nor unreal. What then shall we call real in this universe? Hence, my son, give up these notions, thoughts and intentions. When they cease, the mind naturally turns to what is truly beyond the mind, the infinite consciousness.
Okay.
The Ashura continued.
No, it's done for today.
Okay.
So, the essence here is what? Yeah? That Khota created everything in his mind. It does not really exist. Like that, only we create everything in our mind. Yeah, it does not really exist. One little notion, yeah, like a raga for something or a dvesha for something creates one world. Yeah, because I get so lost in my raga or dvesha, and once I am lost in this Maya, I do not really have a hold on the truth anymore. Yeah, it's like if the floor is covered with soap, yeah, and soap and water, and it's very slippery. It's definitely a dangerous situation where you could really slip and fall. Every raga and dvesha is that little slip. You slip and you fall again back into the Maya. Yes, with a lot of effort through the lifetime, with your attraction and love for the spiritual knowledge, you somehow pull yourself up and you stand up. Yeah, and then you're standing up, and again you take one more step, and if your step is not firm and your focus is not sharp and you are not 100% in the moment, again your leg is going to slip and again you're going to fall. Yeah, that's exactly what every raga and every dvesha is doing to you. It is just a notion. This notion completely grabs me as if it has such a strong hold, and I keep falling into it. Yeah, again I pull myself up and again I fall into it. This is Maya. Yeah, Maya is nothing but a soapy, watery floor that you have to walk on. Tread very lightly but firmly with 100% focus. Yes? So now do you understand the significance of what a notion can do? It can completely break your back. Yeah. So that's all a notion is, an intention, a thought in the mind, a desire to achieve or get this or want this or like this, or a desire to not want this, not have this, not be with this. Yeah. Raga or dvesha. This is a notion. So let's read a little more about notions. The real, the unreal, and the admixture of these two are all but notions. Yeah. We saying that, oh, all this is unreal, this Maya, this is world appearance. But at an intellectual level, this is just a notion. Till the day I don't wake up and see the truth, the consciousness in everything. Yeah. So now some people, after reading a lot of spiritual knowledge, say, oh, all this is the consciousness. Yeah. And only consciousness is real. Yeah? This is also an intellectual understanding. Till the time it is not a swabhava jnana for me, not an internal experience for me. Are you getting what I'm saying? Yeah. So the real, the unreal, and the admixture of these two. Somewhere we understand, oh, it is both Prakriti and Purusha, but we are not easily in that truth of the Purusha. Always we slip into the Prakriti. So that becomes an admixture. The admixture of these two are all but notions, nothing but a notion, yeah, a thought, and not else, and nothing else. And notions themselves are neither real nor unreal. What then shall be called real in this universe? Hence, my son, give up these notions, thoughts, and intentions. Very big homework, this week. Vasistha is telling you, he's urging you, give up these thoughts, give up notions, give up intentions. What is the nature of a wise one? How does he live? Effortlessly. He does everything effortlessly, just acting spontaneously by his nature. He is not acting out of raga or dvesha. There is no desire to get something and no dvesha to reject something. Yeah? That's quality number 1. And 2, he goes through all those experiences that have come his way. He does not create new experiences. Whatever happens, it's happening. I let it happen. The river is flowing, I let it flow. This is the nature of the wise one. Yeah? So, Vasistha is urging you here that to be able to live like a wise one, the most important requirement is to drop these notions. You're holding your fist tight with raga or dvesha. Open, he says. Let go. Drop this notion. Drop intentions. Drop desires. Just be with what is. Yeah? So take this as the homework for the week. Be with what is. Yeah? Something good happens in the house. Yeah? Somebody says something nice. Yeah? I am with what is. Something bad happens in the house. I am with what is. Yes? My graph does not go up with the good happening and down with the sad. Yeah? It is equanimous. Clear? We've studied this before. It's called Sambhava. So, this week we will practice Sambhava. Yes? This page is very simple, right? There's not much. It's a repetition of the same, that you will keep taking birth again and again if you are lost in these notions. Yeah? Therefore, he says, drop, drop, drop. Let go of these notions. In the end, he says, hence, my son, give up these notions, thoughts, and intentions. When they cease, the mind naturally turns to what is truly beyond the mind. Understand? He's saying, when the notion cease, notion is just a thought in the mind. Okay? It's all hovering here. And the moment this hovering stops completely, yeah, there is complete silence. There is no mind at all. Mind equals to thought. The moment there is no thought, there is no mind. So he says, when they cease, the mind naturally turns to what is truly beyond the mind, the infinite consciousness. So let me leave you with this one beautiful thing. In reality, there is nothing called the mind. When this consciousness, the consolidated consciousness, broke away and there was a split because of ego, I, it got lost in the Prakriti. The split consciousness is called the mind. When this mind is lost in the world and creates raga, dvesha, and is lost in the maya of raga and dvesha, it is called the mind. Yeah, when it creates problems for you, it is called the mind. Yeah, but the moment this mind meets a spiritual master, spiritual scripture, yeah, a guide, a friend, a philosopher, this mind recognizes, oh, I am turned towards the wrong side. There is something more on this side, and it turns back within. Slowly it starts walking back to itself. But because of habit, it keeps going out again and again and getting lost. Yeah? But with your incessant purushartha, it will keep coming. It will keep going, it will keep coming. But one day, this mind will come home. Yeah? And that's when there is no mind. So consciousness itself, when it is lost in the Prakriti, is called mind. And when this consciousness comes back home and is complete, it is called the infinite consciousness. Yeah. So let me leave you with this thought. Keep thinking about this. It's a beautiful thing to understand. Yeah. So repeat this to yourself if required. Watch the video or read this page again. Yeah. Drop these intentions and notions and desires, because that is the root cause of the split in the consciousness. Again and again come back. Yeah, the moment I drop a notion, I am coming back. Again I drop another notion, I am coming back closer to the self. Come back to the self again and again. And you will realize that you are the infinite consciousness. Yes. So, just read this page again and be with this. Your homework is to complete the next page, page 134. We will begin with page 135, where Rama asks his question to Vasistha about the story. Yeah. So you will complete this story. Page 134 is the last page for this story. Yeah. And I will see you next week. Jai Gurudev.